I quit my job and I saw this like first run of YouTube vloggers where they were doing all these daily vlogs back in the day. And they were just traveling the world constantly. And I thought, like, that looks amazing. That's what I want to do.
What would you say to the everyday person that's listening to this that wants to get a little bit more travel into their life?
I think it's probably more accessible now than ever. It's all built to be difficult or impossible for invaders. All of the steps are uneven. Like some of them are really high, some of them are really short, some of them are just slanted and there's no steps at all and it goes up at like 45-degree angles. My name's Jordan Simons. I've been traveling pretty much for the last 10 years, doing the whole like digital nomad thing, working in different places. And I, at the beginning of that, I started a YouTube channel of me just going to these places and trying different things. That's kind of now developed into me doing these weird or difficult challenges around the world. I've got into running a lot recently. And so then one of the challenges that I came up with was to do a marathon on the Great Wall of China, which now I've just, the last couple of weeks, finally completed.
I like starting these conversations sometimes by like referencing the like Instagram bio or some sort of social bio. And I like yours at the moment. It's going to every country and running in most of them. I feel like
Yeah.
that's kind of the perfect way to sum up where you're at the moment. Let's go back a little bit and get to the start of that kind of digital nomad period.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to go that route and decide to travel and do that sort of thing rather than the traditional stay in one place?
To be honest, when I started, it wasn't as big of a thing as it is now. I quit my job in 2014, so it was only like a year and a half after I'd finished uni. I had like a decent enough job, but I wasn't enjoying it. And I saw this like first run of YouTube vloggers where they were doing all these daily vlogs back in the day, and they were just traveling the world constantly. And I thought, like, that looks amazing. That's what I want to do. How could I possibly do this? And it seemed like this crazy, overwhelming thing. So I sold all my stuff. Well, I didn't have loads. I was only like a year and a half out of uni, but I sold all my stuff and went away traveling and went backpacking, trying to like figure out how to do this like YouTube vlog thing. Of course, like it didn't really work for the first year. I just completely ran out of money, partied too much. Yeah, didn't actually try and do any of like the actual vlogging, and then ended up in Australia on a working holiday visa, and then ended up working there for 6 months to save up again. Got going again when I traveled back to Southeast Asia from Australia with a little bit of money saved from the working holiday visa, and then decided from then I was actually going to make this whole like YouTube idea work and keep traveling as long as possible. And then from there, I guess that was like 2015. I did manage to make it work, so I worked a bit harder and just like I don't know, and things just snowballed, and it's now almost 10 years later. There's a lot in between there, but yeah, that was kind of the beginning of
It must feel kind of weird now looking back on the whole thing, that 10 years, because I guess when you're in those moments and you're in these amazing places, like you're taking it in, but until you have time to reflect of like what you have done over that period of time, it must be quite looking back at it now, it must feel like quite insane, really.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's been like periods where obviously I've stopped for 6 months here and there, and then like you slow down. Obviously, COVID was a big one in the middle, and then there's other periods where like loads of stuff happens all at once. So you end up doing these like crazy things or big journeys. Like a year feels like it happens in 3 months, and then you slow down again. But
Mm.
yeah, it has been like I think back sometimes and like I try not to take it for granted. But I've been to some amazing places and done these crazy things. And yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky to have done them. But now it's just like you sort of get the itchy feet, and then I'm always thinking, okay, what next? What else can I do that I haven't done yet?
Does that ever, when you're in it then, like if you're thinking about what's the next thing, if you're getting that itchy kind of feet, do you ever have to remind yourself like, hang on a sec, like I'm in this place, like enjoy this place?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I think I've done that a few times. Like, you kind of, I don't know, you could do it when you're walking around a place, or if you're, to be honest, running really helps for that as well. Like, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're just looking around, you're like, oh wait, I'm in South Korea now. This is really cool. Because like otherwise you do like you just get used to it. I think one thing that's odd that I know has happened to me and like quite a few other people I know that have traveled quite a lot is sometimes you wake up in the morning, you're like, what country am I in? And it takes you like a few run throughs and like, oh yeah, okay, no, yeah, that makes sense. Uh, yeah, yeah, like it's tough when you're doing it all the time. I'm not gonna say it's tough; it's great, but I mean, it's tough not to take it for granted. So you do have to remind yourself that this is a really cool thing.
Yeah, and I guess it's weird as well because it's kind of your job, right? Like the traveling side of things, well, it is your job. So it's like you you're kind of thinking about how you can monetize the travel, enjoy the travel, do the YouTube side of the travel. So it's not like you're just able to enjoy the travel, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think I said like when I started, it was all about daily vlogging, and people were doing these videos every single day. And I think that was then impossible to also have the balance side of it, where you got to enjoy it as well, because all people were doing were filming all day and then editing and then putting video out in the evening, and you start again the next day, and that's not sustainable. And I did that for a little bit, maybe like a year or 2 years, and even then, it's not sustainable. So I think everyone that was doing that, they don't make videos anymore for the most
Yeah.
part. Like I think that they all burnt out and stopped. So I do think you have to go away and do specific trips where you're filming, and then also go away and do other trips where it's just for yourself, and then have your other time just for yourself as well, or for your partner or family or whatever, because it's not sustainable to do it all the time.
When you look at a map, for people that aren't watching this, there is a map behind you.
Yeah.
I bet you're looking at that and you're thinking, "I've been there, I've been there, I've been there, I've been there, I've been there." Are there still a long list of places that you still want to go? I know there's still plenty of places you haven't been, but, like, how do you make that decision where it's like, "I'm going there next?"
So I still want to go to every country. I'm on 115 right now, and my long-term goal, I want to do it over my lifetime. So I don't have like a aim of doing it in the next 5 years, 10 years. But I want to go to every country eventually, even if that takes me the next 50 years. So they're all definitely on the list. But then there's other things as well within countries that I've already been to that I want to go do as well. But sometimes it's like, I went to USA when I was younger. Like, oh, no, I went there maybe 10 years ago as well. But it's such a massive country, and like I can, I say I've been to New York, but I haven't been to the rest of USA. So for the country list, it ticks it off, but there's still loads more that I'd love to go see there.
That's really interesting how you say, like, you wanna do them all within, your lifetime. Are you saving certain things? Like, do you save things and think, "Oh, I'm gonna wait until this time to go there"?
Well, I think there's one that I've got to say back in Europe right now, which is Iceland, and I've only got Iceland in and Russia to do left in Europe.
Right.
So I think I'm going to save Iceland, because then it would be, if I do, or if and when I get to go to every country, then that would be a great one to have kind of a party with all my mates and family to come to, that's close enough and accessible, and still a cool country as well. I think I'm engaged right now as well, getting married
Okay.
next year, so I like to save back one for a honeymoon. I think would be good as well. I think we're looking at one of the Polynesian islands. So, but they're the only ones I've got in mind. Like the others, I'm just like quite happy to pick off here and there. And I think it's good to, when you do a trip, you go and knock off like three or four at the same time. So you've got to kind of do it in regions. Otherwise, you're flying one place, flying the other side of the world, and that makes it a lot more difficult.
Do you take little bits from all these places? Like, have countries and cultures and people impacted you as a person?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Like, I think different countries have a different pace of doing things. Like, obviously, if you go to lots of parts of Asia or Africa or whatever, you just have to be used to things happening a lot slower. Nothing's on your time. So I think like that's made me be a lot more patient. And I don't know. There's definitely different things that you pick up over a long time. It would be difficult to pinpoint exactly what it is,
Yeah.
but I've been all over the place for the last 10 years, so it probably has shaped my personality. And I think like it's probably changed a little bit now. I don't know, but people have told me my accent has changed a lot over the last 10 years. I don't know. Like some people say, I sound a bit more Australian than English. I don't know. Don't know what you think. Yeah.
I think no, I wouldn't be able to place you in the UK. Let's say
Okay.
that. Like if like somebody said like name me this regional accent, I wouldn't know. You sound like you're British, like your
Yeah.
accent is a British accent, but I don't know. I can't work out where from. You know, some people you hear straight away, and you're like, well, you're from Yorkshire, or you're from Manchester, or you're from London. But yeah, I guess it's that amalgamation of the time that you've been away as well. There's that side of things, but it's all these different places that you visited too. But that is quite nice, isn't it? Because that's something you carry with you, right? Your voice, like you always have your voice,
Yeah.
so you carry that with you. It's like a badge, a medal, if you will, of all the places you visited, which is really cool. Like, and you have memories on your phone, and photos and videos. There's one thing I was thinking about. Like, do you look back at that sort of stuff, or do you always think forward?
Well, I think even when I started my YouTube channel, like I did have this idea that I wanted to try and make it into a career or a path or whatever, a way of continued traveling. But I also thought, like, well, at least if no one watches this, then I can watch these back in like 20 or 30 years. So I've got all of these like videos and photos that I was uploading, and like then I can, show my kids or whoever, even if no one else watches it. If it's just my mum and my dad, then at least I can show it to my kids or watch it back later. So I've got them that I do go back and look at sometimes, but then also you do have all the photos on your phone and like, it's one thing for me. I know it's like a bit generic, but I just take loads of photos of food. So I'll go back and like, go through my phone and I'll be like, oh, I remember that meal. That was Greece.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I definitely do go back and look sometimes, but it's nice to also have like the videos or the time hop thing to pop up sometimes on your phone and be like, oh, that's cool. I was there 5 years ago.
Well, it's not just gonna be you watching it, because obviously other people are checking out your videos, and it must be a weird thing to kind of digest when it first starts happening, right? Because you have this idea, you're going traveling, you're gonna make videos, and you hope people are gonna watch. But when people do actually start watching, that's gotta feel a bit like, "Ooh, like I'm kind of sharing my life now."
Yeah, yeah. There was a few different moments because like with YouTube and any social media, it goes up and down
Yeah,
like
of
a
course.
graph like this. Sometimes there's things that go really well, and sometimes they don't. But there was a few videos I've had in the past that have popped up, and then suddenly it's like this like massive influx of new people, and then sometimes other videos you put up, and there's like it feels like hardly anyone's watching it, but of course it's still more than there was a few years ago. So it's like I think it's difficult to balance the emotions sometimes with like looking at those numbers. But I don't know, I always then try and go back to like, is this a video that I would just be happy to watch myself later, and then I don't mind. I think yeah, it's nice to have those videos as memories, and then like if other people get to watch it and get inspired from it as well, then that's great. I think I'm sort of more. I've done other videos in the past where I've just been doing guides to places, and I think like now I'm more going down this path of creating these like videos of the epic experiences I'm doing that hopefully then inspire other people to try it themselves as well.
Um, People say the world's a big place, right? And I think there aren't many people in the world that actually can relate to the fact that the world is a very big place. You are one of the people that can really relate to the fact that there is a lot out there. Um, do you relate to that phrase? Do you feel like it is a grand old place, this earth?
I think like the thing is, as soon as you get to one little bit of any country that maybe you've heard of, I don't know, you go to like Bulgaria and you go to Sofia, and then suddenly, as soon as you're there, you figure out like, oh wow, there's loads to do in Bulgaria. Like, there's loads to do in this city, and it's like, oh god, I don't have enough time. And that just happens in like every country you go to. So there's always more to uncover, and then the longer you're there, you figure out, wow, there's actually even more. I need to come back. Um, so yeah, no, I agree. It's huge, and like you could spend your whole life doing it and going to every country and still barely seeing like every country.
It's that layer of the onion analogy, isn't it? It's like you'll go into a country and you're kind of on the first layer, and then you just start peeling. And you're like, Oh my god, there are so many more layers. Like, I haven't traveled much at all, to be honest. I've done a little bit of traveling, but hardly any, and I want to do more. But when I look at a story like you, and I've got a couple of other friends that have kind of done that nomadic, working from home type vibe and traveling all around the place, it feels it feels like an amazing lifestyle, and the fact you're getting to see places, but it also sometimes feels a little bit like you haven't got that base and you haven't got that home. I know you've now come back to the UK and you're kind of settled down. We had that conversation before we um we hit record on this. But did it ever feel like that? Did it, or has it ever felt like that where you're just like hopping from here to here to here and you maybe like a bit more of a base?
I've had like various bases over the last 10 years where I was in Bali for a year. I had an apartment or a villa there. And then I was like in other places for 6 months. So it does feel nice to settle down for a little bit. But I think even then, when I started doing that a few years ago, looking towards that, it was to have a sense of community and people around and friends to, I don't know, go down the pub with rather than always meeting new people, which you do make a good network of friends that are also doing the traveling thing. But then it's always like you'll see them for a little bit and they move on to somewhere else, or you'll see like them in passing and you don't really have that like core group or your family just down the road. So I think it was great for my 20s and I loved it. And now like I have sort of gravitated towards having a base and a community and still going off and doing things, but then being able to come back.
Your phone book must be absolutely mad.
Yeah, I don't know. It was always just like the name and then the country, I
That's what I was
suppose.
thinking. Like, it would be
Yeah.
exactly that. Ben Wales, like maybe obviously a little bit more further away than that. But yeah, I just I was thinking like like over your life where you've put random people into your phone book and you like scroll through to a clear out from time to time. Yours just must be absolutely stacked with kind of names. You're like, now can I remember this person from this place? Like,
Yeah.
why have I got that?
Well, to be honest, Facebook's the interesting one because, like, when I started, everything was on Facebook and everyone used it. And now, like, people my age and younger, we don't use it as much anymore. It's all Instagram. So if I go back onto Facebook now, I'm like, who are these people?
Why
Like
don't you
half of
wish
them,
me happy birthday?
half of them I added like 10 years ago, like is what you used to do, and I've got no idea who half of them are.
The
Yeah.
you mentioned about food, which, is something that I'm sure you get questions about all the time. I'm sure you get the question, "Where's the favorite place you've been, and what's the favorite thing you've eaten?" And it's like, I'm not gonna ask you the favorite place you've been because I feel like that's so unfair. Like, it feels like you've been too many places. But in terms of the food, like, has there been a place or has there been a culture that you've enjoyed more than every other?
Yeah, I think like the favorite place is hard because there's always like different things about every place that you love. So there's like the best place for animals or whatever, and but yeah, I think the first place that comes to my mind for the best place for food is Lebanon. Just like I've been there a few times now, and obviously it's like the Lebanese food that we love now anyway, like or like the hummus and falafel and tahini and everything like that. But all of the food there is just like all of that Lebanese food you love, but just done 10 times better. I don't know. That sounds like a bit like farty, like oh, you haven't had Lebanese food until you go to Lebanon, blah blah blah. But actually, like the food there is just so good. Yeah.
And it makes sense, doesn't it? Like, it makes sense that Lebanese food would be better in Lebanon.
Yeah.
Let's talk about running. When did that first become a thing in your life then? Because I would imagine traveling around to all these different places you mentioned, like when you first did it, the first couple of years, you had that sort of party side of things. And I'd imagine
Yeah.
like it can be difficult to get into a routine. And with running, obviously routine's a big thing. W- when did you first pick up a pair of trainers and kind of get started during traveling?
Yeah, like I played football when I was younger, like obviously a lot of people in England do. And then I was playing that to an all right level until I was like 18. But I hated like the fitness and running side of it. Like I loved to do anything with a ball in my feet, but then I hated like the fitness. I definitely didn't get into running until like a lot later, until a lot more recently. And it was kind of just like I was doing a little bit of it, probably like 6, 7 years ago. And then like I mean here and there just for fitness, but I wasn't really working towards anything. And then it was, I think, I can't remember where we were, but it was just me and a couple mates who were like, "Have you seen this like China Great Wall Marathon?" And I was like, "Yeah, I reckon I could do that." Like naivety of youth. And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, that looks all right. I want to do something crazy." And then I realized that then you have to do all of like the training program towards it, and obviously you have to do like a lot more of a routine and working towards an actual marathon. And then because I was on a program working towards something, you have to do 4 or 5 times a week or more, or whatever you choose. Then I started to actually really get the enjoyment out of it, because then I got to like a basic fitness level where I was then enjoying running rather than like every run being really difficult or hurting my shins or whatever. I got over that hump and like started to love it then, I suppose. Um, I then probably after I attempted that, because I didn't finish the Great Wall in 2019, I then fell off it after 2020 for probably a few years where I wasn't doing like as much running. And now I'd say really only in the last 6 months have I got back into it in like a big way where I've learned everything about fueling, about the right exercises, and about like the stretches and like the actual like planned routine. And it's made such a difference to my enjoyment for it, because now I actually like understand what I was doing wrong and why it was like way more difficult than it should have been. And yeah, I think like you asked about the routine, because like the routine while you're bouncing around everywhere did actually make it unsurprisingly really difficult. And like, you know, it's fun because you're going to try and figure out a 10K route in a new city or a place you've never been before, so you are like exploring it. But trying to do that every time does then make it difficult. You end up going down a blind alley and turning around, or like getting to a point where you can't actually run even like the route said you would. And end up doing it in either, if you're in tropical countries, either sunrise or sunset, because otherwise it's 30 to 40 degrees out. So all of that does make it difficult. So then now, actually being back in England for the last couple of months, I've been like, this is really nice. It was like good temperature. Like, yeah, it's made it way more enjoyable.
And like it is nice. One of my favorite things is when you go to a city and like you can smack on a pair of trainers and go for a run and kind of have a look at some of the places you maybe wouldn't have seen, or you get a bit more, if you're doing 10K, it might take you however long it takes you, but it's going to take you a lot shorter period of time than if you're walking around for 6.2 miles, for 10 kilometers in the day. But like I've always done it when you go on holiday, you're in one place and you don't feel any pressure to do it. If you're in a training program to move towards a goal, like, and you're moving around quite a lot, it I can appreciate that it must be so difficult to be like, I need to find this route and I need to find somewhere I can do an interval session and I need to find somewhere I can do a long run. And then you take the enjoyment out of the whole running thing, don't you? You're not enjoying that and you're kind of maybe a bit you're looking at these new places like, "Oh my god, like, I've got to try and find routes to do here as well." So that then you hold that against running as well, if that makes sense.
No, yeah, I'd say you're bang on. Like, if you're going out just for like a nice, enjoyable jog, like if you just set like I don't know, a timer, or you just do a loop, then that's really nice to go in a new place, just like look around and take it in. It's a good way of exploring. But then, yeah, if you're flying often, you've got to fit in 4 or 5 runs that week, then obviously it makes it even difficult just with the time zone and fitting in the time as well in between stuff. So yeah, definitely.
Let's get onto the race itself then that you've just got back from. Again, if you're watching this, you'll see a run through medal hanging in the background of this.
Yep.
I didn't pay him to do that. I didn't do anything. That's promotion, lovely stuff. And if you're just listening to this, you can imagine that beautiful run through medal there. You obviously did a race with us leading up to it. How was that race? Talk me through that day. Where did you run? And yeah, what did you like about that day?
Yeah, so I did the Carsington Water half marathon, which is just down the road from where I live. So that was why I found it, and it was on the perfect like day for my training leading up to training for the marathon. So I did a half, and it was a nice loop around the reservoir, a lake there. And yeah, like I really enjoyed it. Like the organization was great. I haven't had, because I mean I've only really got into it in a big way in the last 6 months. So I haven't had a pacer that I had just in front of me during that run through run with the big flag on the back. I followed the 2 hour one, and that was so useful. Like that's different. I haven't had before. And yeah, I mean, he was really great and like pushed everyone forward. And the yeah, I mean, generally it was just a really nice day. Like it wasn't as nice weather as it is right now. It was quite like difficult wind and sleet, but like that's it was besides that, it was still really enjoyable.
Yeah, I would say go and watch the video on George's Instagram if you haven't seen it, because you very much can see that the weather is a little bit tricky, but very different, I would imagine, to the Great Wall. So leading up to that event, then you mentioned. So did you attempt it in 2019?
Yeah, so 2019, I went into it, and I actually only found out this after, but I was 29. And apparently, 29, the end of like every decade, is when everyone signs up to do these crazy like endurance challenges that they're not equipped for. It's like, oh, well, I'm almost 30. What am I going to do? So I signed up for the Great Wall Marathon. Of course, I did. But I didn't actually train enough, to be
Okay.
honest. Like I put in some time and effort into it, but I was more reliant on my bravado of being like, no, I can do this. If I don't stop, then I can do this. But I didn't even know anything then about like fueling or have the right shoes or anything. To be honest, I had some running shoes, but not some like decent ones, or not even trail shoes. And I wasn't replacing the glycogen in my legs or whatever, so I was just running just with water, no electrolytes or anything. And I got to, I think, just after the half marathon stage on the wall, and that took me 4 hour 45 minutes, and then I just cramped up completely, and like my whole right leg, which I thought at the time it was because I've done my ACL twice on that right leg, so I thought it was related to that, and I was like, I'm going to hobble off injured rather than damage myself more. But I think I just cramped up completely, and then just like couldn't couldn't walk, couldn't move, and so called it a day there, and didn't finish it.
Did you feel anxiety then because of that going back this time, or was it unfinished business? Did that come into the picture?
Yeah, it was definitely unfinished business. I signed up to run it again the following year for 2020. Straight after that, I was like, no, I'm going to come back and do proper training. I was also, because I was traveling about and doing loads of group trips, up until then, I was drinking a fair bit, like and going out and partying, 'cause that's what you do when you're traveling, or at least I did at the time. So my plan was this time to redo it in 2020, and I quit alcohol completely for 9 months leading up to it. I did all the training properly. I ended up getting like quite fit, where I was doing like I think I did a half in 140 back then, and like I was doing some like good times. And then of course it was 2020, so China was a no go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that kind of scuppered the plans there for a few years, and then it only opened again last year. So I was like, okay, now is the chance, really.
Yeah, and I think everybody's on their own journey when it comes to a marathon. Again, a bit of a cliche thing to say, but most people will be on a 12, 16, week training program up to that point, and then it's done, and then you kind of move on. Do you do another one, or what do you want to do with this? And that's kind of the reason I ask about 2019, because you have that, then you have COVID, then you have it not being a thing for a couple of years, and now you can go back and actually do it. That's a that's a long period of time to be thinking about one thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it was for me, it was just like I thought I was gonna be able to do it and I couldn't, so then I had to prove to myself I could go back and do it. And then yeah, I mean that's sort of then what led into it this time as well, because there was a few years where I sort of forgot about it or didn't have the option to do it anyway. And then my mate messaged me around Christmas time saying that he'd just signed up for it, and would I be interested? I thought about it for a bit because I was like, oh God, I know what that entails. I know like how much fitter I'd have to get from where I was, and I decided to try and push for it.
What was it like then standing on that start line?
I think well, there's two things really. Like I was happy because I'd done as much prep as I possibly could this time. And like I'd learned like way more, and I've been doing like everything I could and taking supplements and whatever. The only thing that was, I think, probably held me back is I lost about a month of training at the end of January because I'm not even sure what I did. I either dislocated my elbow or fractured it a bit snowboarding, and I was literally in a sling for like 2 or 3 weeks. So that was annoying. So I probably only got about 12 weeks or 3 months ish of proper training leading up to it. And by I at least know that I'd done everything I could. So I wasn't sure how I was going to actually handle it. So there was maybe a little bit of anxiety before, but then as soon as I was there on the start line, I was with my dad and my friend. My dad also did it, and my mate did the half, and like we were all just excited for it because we decided like it doesn't matter about the time, we're just going to finish it, we're going to enjoy it.
Some of the videos, which I'll put the link to your Instagram in the bio, because some of the videos of you and your dad at class on Instagram, like it's so good to have seen that, and to experience something like that with your dad as well must have been quite a special moment, really.
Yeah, definitely. And like, I mean, I'm happy I did it, but I'm even more proud of him for doing it. You know, he's 63. He's got 30 years on me, and
Legends.
he's just
Legends.
yeah. He did the 32K on the wall in the same time. So and like I don't know. He was struggling a bit at the end, but he was still pushing through. And he only started running a few years ago as well. So he started just after COVID, and he's done the 3 marathons already, and then just done this one as well.
Because for people that don't know, just explain a little bit, I guess, about the terrain, because people hear the Great Wall and they might have the picture of it in their head, right? We've all seen it in a textbook in school, or we've seen some drone footage of it. But when you're actually on it, what is it like to run on?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's like it's all built to be difficult or impossible for invaders. All of the steps are uneven. Like some of them are really high, some of them are really short, some of them are just slanted and there's no steps at all, and it goes up at like a 45-degree angle, so you're going to have to go on all fours. So the bits that you can actually run are far and few between because you're either climbing up to one of the turrets, sometimes on all fours, or you're like clambering down one side of it, and then you can run on the flat, and then you're climbing up again. So like it's difficult to describe. Like a lot of the runners there that were a lot, a lot more fit and more elite runners than me were all saying afterwards, like I don't know how to describe this to anyone. There were people there that did like qualify for the Boston Marathon, did like good marathon times, and then they were coming off it like in like 7 or 8 hours, and go, what just happened? So yeah.
Talk me through
But yeah,
the actual race then, like from start to finish. Break it down however best it is to break down in your head. Because I could say, let's do mile 1 to 5 and 5 to 10, but like I'm sure there were moments that happened throughout the race that stick out to you. So yeah, talk me through kind of the journey from the start.
well, I think there was two sides to it. So you come up to the wall from the starting point, which I think even that was like a kilometer uphill of road to get to the start of the wall, and then we had to go right from there, and it was a half all the way. Well, actually, no, 10K all the way along the wall, and then 10K back. So that half section was on one side of it, and that was on all broken and like unrestored section of the wall. So there's a lot of shrubbery growing through it, and that was, I think, specifically only open for this race for the marathon. I think they open it a few. There's 3 or 4 different ones, and they only open it like 3 or 4 times a year for that. So that's really uneven, and there's even parts where you have to come off it because the wall's so like degraded that you can't run on that bit, and then you have to come back onto it. So that's like there are parts of it you can run, and there were like the people at the front were obviously like running full out, but there's parts of it where you wouldn't want to run because you're got a chance of slipping off or slipping down. So like a lot of it was in that section was just like climbing, I suppose, and then like trying to find a few K in between where you can run. And so like that part of it made it even more difficult in a way because you know what it's like when you're running a long distance. If you stop a few times, it makes it even more difficult, or at least it does for me. Like so when you're running a few K and then you've got to stop and climb and then run a few K, just like the mental part of it makes it harder.
Yeah, and I think it's not just that part, is it? It's then you're thinking about the next part as well. You're thinking, "Oh my god, if this part's this hard, what's the next part gonna be like?"
Yeah, well, we sort of like there was a 10-hour cutoff to get to 36K, because that's when the sun would start going down. And they know you're going to take 2 hours to get back from there, to get to the start, because otherwise, I think the military and the police come and kick everyone off. So we sort of we started timing it then, and we were like, wow, we've done 10K and it's taken us 2.5 hours. So like, even if we need to keep this pace really to keep going the whole time. So then even at that point, you're starting to consider, God, we've got to like start running a bit harder here. And then the other part that comes into it is then you're like, wait, if I'm going to be doing 10 hours of running, what am I meant to be doing with eating and fueling? And like, so I was trying to like cram my mouth full of enough carbs and stuff, but then also trying to think like, am I eating too much here? Is it going to make me sluggish? Or like, how much water should I get in versus electrolytes and salt tablets and whatever? So all of that, like I tried to understand before, but it was really difficult to actually plan for that because I've never done that
Yeah.
like in that way before. The brutal part of this one, that actually this China Great Wall Marathon, because I think they have four every year, was twice as hard as the one I tried in 2019.
Right.
And I didn't realize this, but like I'll tell you why. The second half of it, so I said that first half was 10K out and 10K back. And then the second half of it was all of the steeper section, which is like the part called the Stairway to Heaven, where you are up on all fours, and you have to get all the way over that. It's more condensed. So it's 5K to that end, and then 5K back. But that means you have to do that second loop twice. So that was that was the brutal part that we had in our mind. It's like, wow, we're doing all of this. We're absolutely dead. Like, how am I going to be able to do all of this again in like 2 hours time? And so that was the real brutal part. But I made a decision then. I made it with my dad that we were going to do the 32K on the wall, so they included that final section. Get back to the middle bit, which was where you would come off, and then do the final 10K down on the road for myself, because like all I wanted to do was finish the full marathon along the wall in the same way that I didn't do it in 2019. And 2019 had the first half on the wall and the second half on the road. So I was like, as long as I do what I'm happy with, I don't mind that I didn't finish their final loop.
Yeah.
So although like I would say technically I didn't finish their route, I finished my own version of the marathon, which I was happy with.
And I think as well, like, to your point, it's like, it doesn't really matter that you don't do something specific. You need to be happy with it within kind of your journey and yourself. And if you're happy with it in your
Mhm.
journey and yourself, that's the main thing, isn't it? And like,
Yeah.
even recounting this experience, like, I can see how excited you are, and like how, what that meant to you, and to be there with your dad, and to get to that 42.2K mark must have felt so special.
Yeah, definitely. Like there was a point where I was like, "Wow, but we're not going to get to the cutoff point in time here." And I was like, I had my head down, thinking, "I can't do this. I'm not going to do this again." So I came up with that plan. I was like, "No way, I can finish this in my own way."
Yeah.
And then I did, and then I was happy with it. And it ended up being there was four or five others as well that didn't quite reach the cutoff time. So then they did the same and then came out and did a run. And there was like five people all finishing together and cheering of like the last like 10K road run, like those final scenes of the London Marathoners like coming
Yeah,
in,
yeah.
right? It was kind of like that. It was nice.
I bet if it just felt probably like a journey completed, like something boxed off that you've been thinking about for a long time is kind of done, and you can kind of move forward from that now, I guess, and go traveling somewhere else.
Yeah, well, there's that, and there's also now I've because I have got a lot more into it. I'm now thinking about what can I do for a road marathon. Like any time I actually get now should be about 7 hours faster. So,
Yeah,
I,
it is mad when you start thinking about stuff like that, and you're like, yeah, it's like they're almost like two different sports sometimes. Like something like that, and actually running a road marathon, it must well, it I've done ultras and stuff that are like nothing like on the Great Wall, but like I've done longer distance stuff and I've done marathons, I've done shorter distance stuff, and it's it's all running, but it's kind of all very different at the same time, which is quite nice because there's so much like the world, so many countries like running, so much in the space.
Yeah, and there's some really cool ones about as well. So once you start looking into it, there's all sorts of weird marathons you can do, or just like cool places or flat places or whatever. So I've tried to, like a million other people, sign up for the London one next year. We'll see, fingers crossed. But I'm gonna do a few more in between, I think, and see what I can do. But yeah, people have said that to me as well, that like ultras are like a different beast, that they're just more about finishing, and then marathons come down to more about the time that you'll be happy with.
What people say about ultras, they're just it's a run, it's an eating competition disguised as a run, basically.
Yeah, I can see that.
Um,
Yeah.
let's finish with this, man, because there are going to be a lot of people listening to this, and they'll probably be thinking like, "I wish I could have traveled that much," or I would love to travel more." Like, what would you say to the everyday person that's listening to this that wants to get a little bit more travel into their life?
I think it's probably more accessible now than ever. I think there are like I don't know, like if you think like obviously this isn't maybe that helpful to the average person. But if you think like 60, 70 years ago, like it was so much more difficult to do to travel like we can and to go to all these places. And now like you can, you can book a flight on your phone, you can book the hotel on your phone, you could just turn up to a place without really having set plans and figure out something to do each day. So I think it's like we have this like golden opportunity to see the world. So I'm like, take it. Like for me, that was something I sort of realized 10 years ago. I saw a great TED talk by someone, and he was saying, like if you're in Europe or if you're in England and you have this like passport, you're more privileged than like 99% of the world. You can go and see all these places. So like it's like, why not go and do it?